Welcome to the 4th episode on this series. Today, we take a look at Italy. In this video, we will explore different articles, blogs, videos, and more importantly, facts about the European migration crisis. Come with me, let's visit some of the most beautiful areas in Italy, while taking a look at the last 10 years of how the country has changed.
An Italian Navy ship docks in the port of Pozzallo on the country's southern coast. But this time there are not only sailors on board. A group of more than 300 illegal immigrants stand upon the ship's deck. They come from all corners of the Middle East and Africa, where they say they face persecution. They paid hundreds of euros per person to flee to Europe's shores, but they were picked up near an Italian island close to Tunisia. We intercepted their vessel about 120 kilometers from Lampedusa. The rescue took place in rough seas, and there are several similar operations in progress. Italian authorities arrested 4 smugglers in connection with these new arrivals. Their welcome to Europe starts with a bus journey to a transit centre where officials register their details.
In Mr. Berlusconi's coalition government, the party's regional president is Antonio Gambetta Viana.
Come gli italiani facevano negli anni 30, negli anni 20.
The problem is, when the Italians went to America in the 1920s and 1930s, they were subjected to health checks and background checks before they were allowed in. There's no such thing in Italy. People come over, they're here, they're illegal immigrants, and there's no process.
A mattress burns in the middle of the street. Residents of this neighbourhood of Treviso in the north of Italy are angry that migrants are moving into empty apartments nearby. They got inside and piled all the new arrivals' belongings up outside. Then they pitched tents and refused to go back to their homes until the situation is settled. I'm sorry, she says, I don't intend to pay 28 more years of a mortgage for my kids to live in a refugee camp.
L'Italia non è in grado di sopportare a livello economico anche questa cosa. Noi siamo in una grande crisi economica, abbiamo molte fasce della nostra popolazione che è molto povera, per cui prima vanno aiutati gli italiani, poi tutti quelli che vengono.
La Bella Italia, rich in culture, history, and the fine arts, among many other things. Times have changed for the Italian, and unfortunately, things have also changed for the tourists and investors. I have been to Italy several times in the past few years. Fortunately, I have not gone back to Rome since 2012. People are now living on the streets, or in government buildings, or sometimes even invading apartment buildings in what is known as squatting.
Milan is the high altar of the fashion world. The manufacture of top-quality clothes has made it the richest city in Italy. Thanks to the flair and business acumen of the textile industry, the economy of this city has thrived since the mid-20th century, its success touching places as remote as the Far East. Today, Milan has its very own Chinatown, a Chinese quarter right in the middle of the city which continues to expand. The Chinese here operate around 500 shops, importing cheap goods from the homeland and selling them on to other dealers.
Chinese immigrants in Italy are heading home, but not because they're homesick. Piazza Vittorio in central Rome used to be a thriving Chinatown. Now store owners say the economy is too bad to stay.
Now many businesses are closing. Near my restaurant, shops are closed or empty or being reopened as a different store and aren't Chinese anymore.
With higher taxes and more stringent policy on tax evasion, many Chinese immigrants are moving elsewhere. Some are going to other countries, others are going back to China. This travel agency says they're also seeing less Chinese travelers coming to Italy.
Many Chinese people have only been booking one-way tickets because they're closing their business here and returning to China or moving somewhere else.
I controlli di polizia ai quali stiamo assistendo riguardano le persone e i mezzi che stanno sbarcando da una nave appena arrivata dalla Grecia. Le migrazioni sono sempre esistite, fanno parte della natura umana. Il flusso migratorio, inteso nella sua accezione più ampia, è un flusso che in sé e per sé non si può arrestare. Non esiste un sistema per fermare un movimento migratorio.
You know, migration is the oldest adaptation strategy that man knows. Think about it, how people spread around the world through migration. So we're not talking about something that's just been invented in the last couple of months or weeks, now that we're paying more attention to it in the media.
Siete in grado di leggere la vita di questo soggetto. Siamo noi che siamo sul territorio e ricordatevi, noi la responsabilità non ce l'abbiamo solo per noi, ma ce l'abbiamo anche per tutta l'area Schengen, perché una volta che il soggetto è entrato poi si può muovere liberamente. Quello è fondamentale, perché sapete bene che alcuni entrano e poi si fermano. Si fermano, vanno in un altro paese, ripartono con un altro vettore. Questo non lo sappiamo. Sappiamo che non ripartono, il che significa che è una massa che poi gira nei vari paesi.
I mean, the Italians, because they are closest, if you will, to North Africa, they take an enormous number. Many of these migrants and refugees wish to go through Italy very quickly and move on to Sweden, where they may have family, or Germany, where they know there's a chance of a job. So the Italians have been extraordinarily generous. They've funded the Mare Nostrum maritime rescue operation for 2 years. They saved hundreds of thousands of lives, and they continue to do so. But they're in a tough place too, because like every country, they have their own domestic politics, and there's a backlash against migrants. Migrants are not very favorably looked on.
Che ci dassero una mano a prendere almeno la possibilità di provare a avere un lavoro, perché senza un documento uno si ritrova o a rubare o a spacciare, perché nessuno oppure ti sfruttano. 2 euro all'ora e devi andare a lavorare, ma con 2 euro all'ora di questi tempi non si può vivere, e ci ritroviamo qua come ai tempi di Hitler, rinchiusi. Sì. Poi ti dicono se scappi non è reato. Che vuol dire se scappi non è reato? Vuol dire che qualcosa c'è. Sì. È reato che loro ci mantengono qua rinchiusi dentro un centro d'accoglienza. Dicono centro di accoglienza, questo è un centro di sofferenza.
Siamo senza diritto, senza reati. La libertà! Allora gli ha fatto sotto alla testa! Morirca! Non problema io! Quando morire! Vai a palisimia! Subito! Vai a palisimia! Subito! Dobbiamo andare a Marocco! Dobbiamo andare a Marocco ora! Che aspettiamo? 7 settimane! Porca miseria! Ci bambini via e aspetta, Marocco! Questa non so su questa! Vai a Marocco! Questa non so!
Faccio di tutto per trovare un lavoro, ma pure a pulire la merda. Però intanto voglio stare regolare qua in Italia, dammi una possibilità. È normale che io mi ritrovo clandestino. Scusa, mi fai lavorare? Ce l'hai documenti? No. Mi fai lavorare? Ce l'hai documenti? No. Perché è il sistema che ti porta a delinquere.
Refugees are people who are entitled to asylum under the 1951 Geneva Convention. But outside of that group, you have a huge number of vulnerable people who don't necessarily neatly fit the category. Those could be unaccompanied minors, and there are tens of thousands of those who've moved across into Europe. Victims of trafficking, sexual trafficking. The biggest victims of trafficking are labor migrants who are being abused. So what are they? Are they economic migrants, or are they somehow fitting closer into the refugee category?
Clearly, when people say all countries have been built by immigrants, they are right. But most of those immigrants went through an immigration process. They were vetted before given asylum or resident status. Notice that the locals have started to migrate out of Italy, and replacing the population with uneducated people can't be good for the economy. There is a huge conflict in what the refugees and asylum seekers expect and what the country they arrived in can provide. Even if there is an economic crisis in Italy, they have been provided with basic needs until things can be organized and a stable structure has been developed to deal with this masses of people. It seems migrants are impatient and demand to receive more with a sense of entitlement that has made the locals uncomfortable and are now being tempted by the right-wing parties that look to protect the Italian culture.
The Italian immigration system is not working. This shanty town in Rome, testament to that.
But there are new arrivals.
With babies?
Yeah, with babies.
4 days ago, this toddler survived the Mediterranean on a smuggler's boat. Children can be resilient, though. Still up for playing make-believe journeys. Did you bring the children with you on the boat?
Yeah.
The latest leg of this family's odyssey, the Ponte Mamolo shanty town on the outskirts of Rome. Our guide, Mulagata, an immigrant activist. So there are shops and...
There are mini markets, there are barbers, there are hairdressers.
Everything you want is here, especially if you arrive with nothing.
New arrivals.
Are they all new arrivals? There are about 600 people here, mainly Eritreans. For most, this is just a pit stop before the next leg.
Yes, all of them,
England. So England, 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 England. EU rules mean that the first country you're registered in is responsible for you. So if you're aiming for Germany or the UK, you move up country from Sicily as fast as you can. The thing about this camp in Rome, you forget. You're in Rome. There are the official immigration reception centres. Then, out in the suburbs, a network of unofficial ones, giant squats. This one, dubbed Gaddafi Hotel, for example. Or there's Liberty House. If you need a symbol of how the Italians are struggling to accommodate the new arrivals, this is it. An abandoned government treasury building. Residents of Liberty House elect a three-man committee to run the place. And, wait for it, they vet potential residents to make sure they're asylum seekers as opposed to economic migrants.
Hundreds of migrants and refugees trying to reach northern Europe across the border into Switzerland have been camping out in parks and public areas. Most of them arrived in Sicily after being rescued in the Mediterranean by the Italian Coast Guard and other EU vessels. For many of them, Italy is now the only gateway into Europe, after borders were shut along the Balkan corridor and a deal between Turkey and the EU stemmed an influx into Greece.
Gran parte delle persone che vedete attorno a me sono state respinte dalle guardie di confine in quanto non ritenute beneficiarie della possibilità di richiedere asilo politico in Svizzera e sono però rimaste qua perché la loro speranza è comunque quella di passare.
Time for focus, and today we're looking at tensions between Italy and Austria over the migrant crisis. Last week, Austria's announcement that a fence was being built along the border to keep out migrants was met with outrage in Rome. The European Commission also criticising the move. Natalia Mendoza reports.
Just a few feet from the border with Austria, the Italians are getting angry.
No nation! Stop deportation! No border! No nation!
They have not stopped demonstrating since Austria announced the construction of a barrier along its border with Italy.
You are killing Europe. This is where Europe dies. Like in Idomeni, like in Calais, confronted by walls, barriers, barbed wire, and the police.
We are at Italy's northern border in Brenner. This afternoon, there are several hundred demonstrators, all here to denounce this fence that they consider to be a violation of the European ideal. The reason for the anger is this building site. These workmen are building a future border control point on the Austrian side of the border, a 370-metre structure along the motorway whose objective is to block the route and stop the migrants arriving from Italy.
Over there, that's where they're going to build the fence. And here in the middle of the motorway, they've already started building a border control post.
The Austrian government started the project the day after the Balkan route was closed. Vienna fears that this summer, all the migrants will come across the Mediterranean and up through the Italian peninsula.
Over to Italy now, where a study has shown that in 2017, migrant was the most frequently used word in the country's newspaper headlines. Against the backdrop of the ongoing refugee crisis, Italy is going to the polls on Sunday, and public opinion seems divided, with right-leaning parties gaining momentum. As we can show you from the chart, Forza Italia and Lega Nord are projected to garner over 30% of the vote. Both parties are known for their tough stance on immigration. This issue remains a key one as the country struggles to deal with the continuing flow of newcomers. RT's Anastasia Cherkina travelled to one Italian town that hopes its approach to migrants will be taken up by the country as a whole.
We are in Sesto San Giovanni on the outskirts of Milan in the north of Italy. Once an industrial town, it used to have overwhelmingly communist views, dubbed the Stalingrad of the country. Today, those views have all but vanished. With elections in Italy just around the corner, this place hopes to lead by example in tackling immigration, and tolerance seems to be the last of concerns.
Whatever will help the situation must be done. It's very important. In other countries, they are already doing these kinds of things, and no one gets offended, because it is a warranty for us and them.
We need to find the best solution possible. First, we need to find out how many migrants we can identify through digital fingerprints and any other systems. Then we need to see if this works.
They are human beings too, but if there are hundreds of thousands coming into Italy every year, we really have a problem. We can't accommodate them.
It would be very difficult for this system to work. We are not alone. In France and Germany, the situation is even worse, but they don't have the same level of hate towards migrants that we have here.
Most recently, 200 migrants were expelled from here. Plans to build one of the biggest mosques in northern Italy were blocked, and works to install facial recognition security cameras are already underway.
The left had plans to build one of the biggest mosques in northern Italy. This project would have meant turning my city into Italy's Mecca. This was a criminal project that would have turned Sesto San Giovanni into a magnet for Muslims. We started a surveillance project which will check all the entrances and exits to the town, based on the Israeli model, including facial recognition and monitoring number plates, so we'll know everyone who enters and leaves our town.
Per gli immigrati clandestini è finita la pacchia, preparatevi a farne valigie, preparatevi a farne valigie.
Touch on that socio-economic context. You're saying that Italy might be perceived erroneously, perhaps, as a racist country. Something you often hear in the country is that traditionally it's a country of emigration, not immigration. They've not had the same post-colonial experience, which could be compared to, say, the UK or France, and this is therefore new to them. Does this historical argument stand up these days?
Well,
you don't need to be very historical about it. In 2017, there were approximately 150,000 migrants coming into Italy and over 200,000 emigrants, that is to say, Italians that are leaving Italy. The net migration is unfortunately negative, which means that Italy exports more people than the number of people coming into the country. And once again, the focus of this government is to place the accent on those coming in order to hide the situation of those going out of the country.
Lega Nord is a party originally founded to win independence for northern Italy, but it's now campaigning aggressively for votes in the deep south.
Months of hardline stances on immigration are one step closer to being enshrined into Italian law. On Monday, the Italian government unanimously adopted a singular decree which tightens both anti-terrorism and immigration legislation. The bill makes it easier to expel migrants and strip them of Italian citizenship.
I do not consider it absurd, quite the opposite. To withdraw nationality from those who have acquired it and afterwards are convicted, following a final sentence for crimes concerning international terrorism, I believe it is a measure of extreme good sense.
The bill permits authorities to suspend the asylum requests of those considered, quote, socially dangerous, or convicted of certain crimes, even if an appeal is ongoing. It also sets stricter criteria for granting humanitarian protection, which is a lower level of asylum rooted in Italian rather than in international law. Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte said the decree was compatible both with international conventions and with the guarantees of the Italian constitution.
A 16-year-old girl, her body was found in an abandoned building in the San Lorenzo district in Rome. A picture of her was tweeted out by the Italian news agency, and she last spoke to her grandmother on the phone, saying that she was getting a bus home on the 17th of October, but then her body was discovered on the 19th of October. She was drugged and raped and believed to have died from an overdose. Well, state police have arrested 3 people. They tweeted this picture of one of the suspects they'd arrested in connection with this. The 3 people are migrants from Senegal and Nigeria, and this has reignited the immigration debate. Virginia Reyes, the Rome's mayor, tweeted saying that she attended the scene and she said that acts of violence like this are unacceptable, and she said she would be stopping the consumption of alcohol in the San Lorenzo district after 9 o'clock, and she also vowed to demolish the building where Desiree's body was found, which is a known spot for drug dealing. Well, Matteo Salvini, Italy's deputy prime minister, has used this case and politicised it to plug his anti-immigration policies, which he is known for. He attended the scene several times, twice in one day at one point. He arrived to protest, with some people shouting at him, the others applauding him when he arrived. In a subsequent tweet, he went on to say that he was going to do everything possible to make the worms he describes here guilty of this horror and pay. Well, as I said, this has reignited the debate about immigration in Italy.
Police in Italy have arrested 4 people suspected of plotting a terrorist attack in the country. Security forces say they intercepted an ISIL communication calling upon one man to launch an attack in Rome. The suspect, identified as Abderharim Mutarik, was arrested along with his wife. The couple had intended to travel to ISIL-controlled territory along with their 2 children. Another man taken into custody was planning on joining ISIL as a foreign fighter. The Milan prosecutor, Angelino Alfano, said the case was unusual because it involved a specific request to a specific person to carry out an act of terrorism on Italian soil.
Roma, orgoglio nazionale! Forza! Roma, orgoglio nazionale!
An Italian official says the country will turn away more than 600 migrants from its shores and direct them to Malta instead. The move is reportedly part of new Interior Minister Matteo Salvini's mission to halt the flow of incoming migrants to the country. Euronews correspondent Annalise Borge has been on board the ship Aquarius, tweeting its route is currently on its way past Malta and awaits confirmation for somewhere to dock. The boat rescued the migrants in 6 different operations off Libyan shores Saturday morning. According to reports, hundreds of those were initially plucked from the sea by the Italian Navy. Responding to Italy's comments, Malta says it's had nothing to do with the rescue operation, leaving the prospect of a diplomatic standoff between the 2 EU allies. More than 600,000 migrants have reached Italy by boat from Africa during the past 5 years.
There have been renewed protests on the southern Italian island of Lampedusa over the government's response to its immigration crisis. More boats carrying mostly young North African men have arrived on the small fishing island today, sparking angry demonstrations at the port. Residents occupied the town hall and threatened to close off supplies and services unless thousands of illegal migrants are moved off tomorrow. The head of Sicily's regional health authority said the ultimatum is based on what's happening on the ground. We're sitting on a ticking time bomb, he said.
What started as a peaceful protest against forced repatriations ended with this. Hundreds of mainly Tunisian refugees cornered by police with only one escape route, straight down. Here it appears one man jumps over the wall as he's chased by police. Local residents seem to be joining in, throwing stones at those trying to escape. Since the Arab uprising began, more than 50,000 people have escaped by boat to Lampedusa. The Italian government has rejected most Tunisians seeking asylum. The local refugee holding centre was built for 850 people. It's now holding more than 1,200. Local residents have come to resent what many see as an invasion of their island.
Police said they intervened because of reports that protesters planned to use gas canisters and Molotov cocktails. Officers claim they were hit by bottles, rocks and pepper spray.
is evident that the leftists, the social democrats in the European Union, are working hard to keep pushing the open borders agenda. Think about it. Which party could benefit the most from migrants? Which party would be getting all these votes from poor, ignorant, and uneducated people? Statistically, migrants tend to vote for the left in other countries. This could turn the power over to the European Union's social democrats that want to homogenize cultures in Europe for easier control and social engineering.
Deve essere successo qualche cosa, spero soltanto tecnico. Ci troveremo con Francesca Parisella dopo.
Siamo stati aggrediti.
Che succede, Francesca? Francesca?
Ci hanno aggrediti, Nicola.
Beh, ma tu vattene via, non te ne
Nicola,
preoccupare.
non so se mi senti, ci hanno aggrediti.
Francesca?
Ma cosa vuoi? Ma cosa vuoi?
Succede in una stazione centrale in Italia di notte. Francesca?
Molti di loro provengono dall'Africa centrale, alcuni dalla zona del Maghreb, ma ti devo dire, Nicola, anche parlando un po' con loro, quasi tutti sono stanziali qui alla stazione Termini. Domani mattina riporranno le loro coperte, riporranno i loro cartoni e torneranno nuovamente qui a dormire, ancora una volta. Perché la loro speranza è quella di raggiungere soprattutto Milano e altre città del nord e poi spostarsi nel nord Europa. Non li vorremmo disturbare oltre, perché però è importante sapere che questa è l'accoglienza che noi siamo stati aggrediti.
Che succede, Francesca? Francesca?
Ci hanno aggrediti, Nicola.
Beh, ma tu vattene via, non te ne
Nicola,
preoccupare.
non so se mi senti, ci hanno aggrediti.
Francesca?
Ma cosa vuoi? Ma cosa vuoi?
The sheer blatancy of this attack shocked me. I tried to start digging deeper in December. A Somali migrant dressed as a nurse, he snuck into a hospital and he attempted to rape a woman. Somali migrant attacks. I found that this was far from the worst. Just in December, a Somali migrant dressed as a nurse, he snuck into a hospital and he attempted to rape a woman who was giving labour. The same year, a Polish tourist was gang raped on a beach in Verona while her partner was beaten and forced to watch. Think about that. It's horror stories. In 2018, an 18-year-old woman was killed by a Nigerian migrant and her dismembered body stuffed into suitcases. That just happened months ago. Even just this year again, just minutes from where the journalist was attacked, a 75-year-old German woman was raped in a park. So I went to go see for myself. I went to the areas I was warned not to go to as a journalist. I wanted to find out what was going on there. We'd only been in the area for a mere minutes when the migrants hanging around began to notice the camera. One of them even going for my cameraman. Clearly they didn't want anyone filming.
No, no, get him.
I'll put you asleep.
I'll put you asleep.
Get the fuck away from the camera. The fuck away from the camera. You tried to touch our camera. Yes, don't fucking try and touch the camera then. I told you that 5 times.
Keep your life.
I will keep my life. You're not going to take my fucking life. Well, you think you're going to take my fucking life? Take my fucking life.
And you cannot. You cannot. You see that? And you cannot. You can look. Okay.
One way this is going to go, you're going to end up knocked down unconscious.
I can bring the cars. I can bring
Mandalo via perché
non c'entra niente. I was shocked that in the exact same spot, a female journalist was dragged down the street live on air. A group of migrants would attempt to attack my cameraman, threatening to kill me. The video of the journalist being dragged down the street is nearly 2 years old, but clearly it's not a one-off, and things in Italy obviously haven't improved. These kind of crimes taking place across Europe are beginning to resemble those that are more commonplace in places like the Middle East and South Africa.
The Italians are doing everything they can, and migrants and refugees are still demanding more. Instead of living as a refugee and getting prepared to join society by learning the local language and adopting local cultural guidelines, they want to feel freedom right away and escape the process of identification and vetting. Even those who do not qualify for refugee status think they can demand money, housing, and a better life.
At night, the market turns into something completely different, and instead of selling fresh produce and fish, what's being sold on the streets here is hard drugs, and the majority of the people selling those drugs are migrants from Africa.
That's what we've been told by one local journalist, Francesco Bellina. We film in secret with him on the streets.
Here there is very powerful traffic of heroin, crack, marijuana and other kind of drugs. Mafia bosses need to use somebody for sell drugs. So in this case, in this period, they are using also migrants, specifically Nigerian migrants, because there is a relationship between mafia and this gang called Black Axe.
Sicily has a long history of crime, mainly perpetrated by the mafia. What's happening now is that it's teaming up with migrants to carry out criminal activities. The main migrant gang is Black Axe, which is forcing new migrants to work for them.
So they call me, I should join them for violence, oppression, for in the Palermo. So I told them, I don't live that kind of life, you know. Then put hand in my pocket and take my phone, you know. I drag with my phone, then take my glass, you know. Another guy take bottle and hit him in my head. From there they go to his car, use ass and cut me.
Don Emeka refused to join Black Axe and its activities.
So since then, 3 years ago, the case started. Me, I don't have anything to do. I sleep in the Caritas, no job. So the hand is paining me, so I can't walk with the hand. So how can I feed myself?
Selling drugs is not the only way many migrants are forced to make money.
We've been told that many young people are being used for trafficking and for prostitution here on the island of Sicily. And we're told that if we just head down this main street here, literally just off this main street, is where many of the girls, particularly from Nigerian origin, are selling their bodies night after night.
The girls refuse to talk to me, but it's clear the majority are only teenagers. For many, the reason migrants are forced into this dark work is the lack of help that's available to them.
Help us, the government of Italy, try to help us. We are receiving bad conditions, try to help us. We are dying, we beg you, because we suffer too much here.
Where do you come from?
I am from Ghana, so many are here, so many people are here, all Africa, Gambia, even Ivory Coast, 20 people in one room.
6 mois, 5 mois, 6 mois. Nous, on a besoin de papier, on a besoin de notre document.
Africa. According to the UN, almost 84,000 people have arrived at Italian ports since the start of the year. As some estimates predict, the number will jump to 220,000 by the end of 2017. While Italy calls on neighbours to help, France has even used drones and dogs to hunt down those trying to slip across the border between the countries. With the migrant crisis gripping Italy, reports are emerging that mafia gangs have been increasing their influence in the Sicilian port of Palermo.
E allora la Sicilia è diventata un grande centro di accoglienza. In realtà il Mediterraneo, che era la culla della cultura, del turismo, era la culla del commercio, è diventata invece terra di nessuno, terra di briganti che portano tantissime persone illudendole che qui ci possa essere un paradiso, che in realtà non c'è perché noi non possiamo accogliere tutti, soprattutto senza l'aiuto dell'Europa.
Regardless of your perspective, regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of your gender or nationality, there is clearly a problem in countries that have accepted a high influx of asylum seekers and economic migrants. In some areas, life as they knew it will never be the same again, and the Italians are worried about what their country might turn into. Join us next time to take a look at another country in this series. Become a patron if you like this content. Like, share, and subscribe, as this content will not be on television.